Welcome to Mindless Entertainment. My name is Jesse Milestone, and I usually don't weigh in on Washington politics. But as we stand here on the precipice of confirming Brett Kavanaugh as the next Supreme Court Justice to the United States of America, which is almost certain to happen tomorrow, barring divine intervention, I just have one question. And that question is, what the actual fuck, America? Because, in response to the question I posed in the title of this video, the answer is unequivocally no. No, this man is not qualified for this position, and I can explain this to you without even discussing the sexual assault allegations. So if you've been following anything that's been going on with soon-to-be Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, you know that he underwent rigorous interviews, etc., even prior to the sexual assault allegations, and then another trial, which was essentially just they interviewed one of the women and they interviewed him and talked and whatnot, and he demonstrated without a doubt in that process. I mean, this was what a fun opportunity. What a great test to put him under immense scrutiny. He's going to be in a position where that's going to happen. There's going to be intense scrutiny. There's going to be pressures from both sides. There are probably going to be personal attacks against him. That's just the reality of the job that he's signing up for, and what a great way to test him to see if he's ready. And the answer is a resounding no. And you don't have to take my word for it. You really don't. Following that testimony, the American board, American Board Association, that's the one, decided to reevaluate their initial assessment of they gave him their stamp of approval. Yeah, he's totally qualified. They decided in light of his temperament, specifically his temperament, nothing that he purportedly did or not did, but his temperament alone is causing him to reevaluate whether or not they truly think he's fit for that position. Over 2,000, I think something like 2,400 law professors have stated that they do not think, based on his temperament, as well as his extremely partisan record and his extremely partisan testimony, that he is fit for the position of Supreme Court Justice. Former Supreme Court Justice, this is incredibly rare for one of them to speak out on this, John Paul Stevens, who, by the way, was instated by a Republican and who had previously spoken in support of Kavanaugh, stated following the testimony, based on the partisan speech he gave, looking at his partisan track record, and of course his insanely emotional testimony, that he is not fit to be a Supreme Court Justice, that those questions seriously and deeply need to be asked. And beyond that, beyond the issues of temperament, we're talking Supreme Court Justice. You're someone who needs to be level-headed. Emotion should have nothing to do with it. Your job is to institute the law. And when things get heated, or if things start feeling a little personal, if you can't continue to separate the emotions and the practice of the law from your feelings, you have no business being in that situation. I would have felt much more sound to see a Brett Kavanaugh have gone through that testimony, just laying out the facts starkly and without passion, without rage, without any of that. That is the way a Supreme Court Justice should act. I mean, not saying that they shouldn't have passion, but I'm saying that when you're asked to speak, to weigh in on an issue, you should be fact-based, you should be logic-based. It shouldn't be emotional, it shouldn't be defensive, it shouldn't be angry, and it certainly shouldn't be partisan. Your job as a Supreme Court Justice, and this is an incredibly important part of American government, the Supreme Court is meant to temper the incredibly partisan branches of Congress and the presidency. That's what is just supposed to happen. And this man is clearly incapable of doing that. There have been numerous articles written regarding, because of that partisan track record, because of certain issues he has been heavily involved in as a lawyer and a justice, that he actually should, there's like a myriad of different issues that are likely to come to the Supreme Court that he should technically be recusing himself from if they come his way. Tons, to the point where it's why even put him in this position. But guess what? He's not going to recuse himself. Of course not, because the man has no integrity. How do I know this? Because he lied under oath. I am not talking about the allegations, but plain and simple, he lied about his drinking habits, his behavior, about the meaning of things written in his yearbook throughout school. He flat, bald-faced lied, and multiple classmates have come forward to say so, including 3 who identified as his former drinking buddies, who, by the way, had nothing to say about the drinking behavior. That was not for them what disqualified him or what upset them, and nor I. I don't think that drinking to excess during your undergraduate years, or even your grad school years to an extent, provided that you did your work and got your grades, precludes you from being qualified for a position like that. I do not care what you did when you were a dumbass college student. We all did dumbass things as college students, but man, have the balls to own up to it. Don't sit in front of the American public and lie through your teeth about I never blacked out, I never got this drunk, this is what this thing means, this is what that thing means. When you have classmates, the people who wrote the damn things in your yearbook coming out and saying, that's not what I meant, that's not what those words meant. When you have your 3 classmates from Yale coming out and stating unequivocally that they are appalled that you're being nominated for the Supreme Court based on the things you said because they went to a school whose motto is light and truth, and you embody neither of those principles, because as they stated, he completely misrepresented himself in that regard. And again, they also spoke to his overly emotional testimony and how, these are people who studied and practiced law. Their job is to know about these things, and they're stating this guy is not cut out. He shouldn't be doing this. They were these are his former friends. These are people that he would get hammered with on the weekends. These are people who probably, that between Kavanaugh and them, know tons of secrets and whatnot about each other. And they felt compelled to speak out and say that he falsely represented himself. He lied under oath. And lying under oath is unforgivable in that type of position. Unforgivable. Hilarious too, by the way. Speaking of, again, this partisan track record. You're talking about, how are you expecting bipartisanship? How are you expecting to start nonpartisanship? How are you expecting a man to be nonpartisan when he was one of the people who spearheaded the efforts to impeach Bill Clinton, who ironically was nailed to the wall for lying under oath? So, what does that tell you? This guy's gonna crucify, and the Republican Party as a whole is gonna crucify one man for lying under oath, but totally gets a pass and appoints to the highest position of government another one. That just speaks to how broken the system is right now, how utterly corrupt it is that the Republican Party could stand behind this man. And don't get me wrong, Democrats, I'm not saying that they're any better. I'm not saying that they're any less corrupt, they're any more moral, they're any less greedy than the Republicans. They're not. The difference right now is that everything is the Republicans' fault because they control Congress and have a Republican president. So essentially the Democrats, as even no matter what they're doing or saying, are basically been relegated. They have about as much power as a child having a temper tantrum in their room. So yeah, right now the Republicans get to sit on that blame. If the Democrats ever get the White House back, they can try to do better. I doubt they will. The problem is, and made crystal clear through Brett Kavanaugh, the problem is partisanship. That is the problem. We need nonpartisan voices. We need independent lawmakers. We need people who are not beholden to a party, to an ideology, to the point where if they make one misstep or do one thing that shows disloyalty or that they're not towing the line exactly, that they're cut out and they're ruined. We need people who are not afraid to stand up to their party, who are not afraid to have integrity. And Brett Kavanaugh is not that man. It's just not. So screw you, America. You're throwing yourself in the toilet right there. What just an appalling failure of the justice system. What an appalling failure of the checks and balances of our federal government. It's just abysmal. It's just pathetic. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a bachelorette party that I spent several weeks planning to attend. And if I'm quiet over the weekend, it's because I'll be doing that and going to a rehearsal dinner and a wedding. So that'll be fun. I'll try not to think about the misery that is our entire government system. So always curious to hear your thoughts. Always curious to hear what you have to say. What do you think is the thing? Because we're not even going to discuss. If you think Brett Kavanaugh is qualified for this position, I don't think I need to hear your perspective. Unless you have an answer for the fact that he's ridiculous. I don't care. He wants to vote for a thing you agree with. Who cares? Right? If Hitler was reborn today and was like, I believe in this one cause that you also believe in, that doesn't mean that you should frickin' vote for him or support him. It doesn't make him qualified to do the thing, but just because he hits on your button issue, on your personal pet issue. So if you are, what I want to hear is, what is the thing that you think makes Brett Kavanaugh least qualified for the position he's about to entail. And guess what? If you think he is qualified, again, I don't need to hear from you, because he's going to get nominated. He's going to be the next Supreme Court justice. That's just the freaking way it is, because this entire process is not up to the American people. It's actually been incredibly transparent, not incredibly opaque. It should be transparent. We should, as the people of this country in a democracy, should have the right to know what's going on behind those closed doors. We should have the right to know more than just a little tiny snippet here and there of this or people's opinions on how thorough the FBI report was or was not. We deserve that as the American public, not all this sneaky BS and expecting us, to just be in the dark and trust our lawmakers. Guess what? I don't. So if you're happy about Brett Kavanaugh, good for effing you. Shut up and enjoy whatever the hell he does to this country over the next God knows how many years he's in appointment. But if you are smart like the rest of us and understand that this man is entirely unfit for this position, tell me what you think makes him least qualified. That's all for me today. If this pisses you off, I really don't care. Otherwise, if you like it, share it with people. Share it with stupid people who don't understand things like how the judicial system is supposed to work. You can love Brett Kavanaugh and think he's a swell guy and think he's the greatest dude ever, but he's not fit to be a Supreme Court justice, and that's just the reality of life. So that's all. That's it. That's all I have for you. I don't know what else you want me to say. Like I said, I'm going to go enjoy my weekend and not think about how stupid this country is. Hooray!